Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cyclones Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Levi Stevenson. I appreciate all the comments, all the impatient viewers commenting that we need to get this thing going. I do appreciate that. And we're going to try to keep this thing tight today, obviously, because I was taking tips off against Kansas at 8 o'clock. So we'll be done a few minutes before that for sure. Hopefully like 5-10 minutes early so that everyone has time to get up, grab a beer, and get ready for Iowa State at Kansas tonight, because that is the most important thing going on today. So today we're going to talk about the defensive. Last week we talked about offensive transfers, running backs, receivers, and all that good stuff. We do have a couple more early ones that we'll talk about right away, just kind of get them out of the way. And then we're going to talk about a lot of the defensive transfers, especially kind of the highlight players that I think are really going to have a chance to make a big time impact next season. Because I would say I think they've done a fantastic job on the defensive side of the ball, and I really want to highlight a few people that I think have a good chance at making a big impact next season. So as of last week, I believe the Fortenberries had already committed. So new as of last week, I will pull up my Cyclomatic tracker here. For some reason, my Stream Deck's not cooperating. So we'll just go up the list here. So we talked about Trevor Fortenberry where we left off last week. Jake Taylor, the offensive lineman from Oklahoma. We're going to talk about him more as well. And I think next week I'm going to see if I can put together an offensive line extravaganza next week, so we can kind of take a look at these guys. Sometimes tape is hard to find, but I want to at least get somebody. I'm going to see if I can find somebody like kind of an offensive line guru to bring in to talk about some of these commits and stuff like that too. So that's my goal for next week. I can't promise anything as far as like extensive tape on some of these guys, because some of them just offensive line tape is just not easy to find. So we're gonna do what we can to find some clips of these guys, so you can at least see kind of what's going on here. But so first up, we'll talk about Amari Hayes. So Amari Hayes came in from Tulane and 5'9", 170, caught 39 passes for 515 yards and a touchdown last year. Coming in with 2 years of eligibility remaining. So sticking with the common theme that we've heard or that we've seen throughout this whole process is getting guys, not just that can be played next year. There are some 1-year transfers involved, but it's a lot of multi-year guys that can be here for multiple years to really gel in this system and get, kind of get up to speed a little bit. I would argue that right now, if you were asking me to put together a depth chart right now, Amari Hayes is in the starting lineup. He might be wide receiver 1. He's very, very good. Maybe he's your slot guy just because he's a little bit smaller, but Amari Hayes is a very, very good receiver that I think absolutely has a chance to lead the team in catches next year. Colin Amick coming in from Montana. Montana is a very, very good program. He's coming in with 3 years of eligibility. Played a little bit as a redshirt freshman last year. He's got great size. Had a good freshman year in the FCS. We'll see how he fits into the rotation. They've got some high-end starter type caliber players already in with Masai King and all those. So we'll see. My guess is Colin Amick fits somewhere in that second group, but we'll have to see. Carter Pabst coming from Washington State. He's actually a Wichita native. Came in, had a few catches last year as a freshman. Coming in 3 years of eligibility, but this kid is a speedster. He can run. He can fly. And that's a common trait that you can see that they're kind of honing in on, especially on the offensive side of the ball, the skill positions. And frankly, across the whole team is they are really, really focusing on speed. Part of it is in the 4-2-5, you've got to have lots of team speed, especially at your linebacker positions, because they're asked to do a lot more sideline to sideline stuff. But then on the offensive side of the ball, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but Cameron Petaway's got big time speed at the running back position. And then we've got, Carter Pabst can really, really move at the receiver position. Amari Hayes can cook. They've got a few other these guys. They've brought in some pretty tremendous speed at some of the skill positions and speed that we're not used to necessarily seeing at Iowa State, because I don't think Matt Campbell's recruiting staff always prioritize. I mean, Jalen Knoll was obviously very fast, but generally speaking, I don't think they prioritized that at a lot of skill positions. So, I mean, speed's always good. You always are trying to find speed, but I don't know if that was like a priority for them as much. So this will be a nice transition. Braden Smith, Tarleton State offensive lineman's coming in. He's got 3 years of eligibility. Another young guy that think probably fits into that second group with Colin Amick. I think we'll see him a couple years down the road. Same with Gavin Broch. Now, Gavin Brocious, I think, is another one of those top line starters. I would be surprised if he's not one of the starting guards, along with the Auburn kid whose name I'm completely blanking on right now. The hell's his name? But anyways, the Auburn trade, DeAndre Carter, that's his name. Right now, I would guess, we'll see what the center position looks like. Could be Cade Meyer. But you're probably looking at tackles being Jake Taylor and Masai King, guards being DeAndre Carter and Gavin Brocious. So, I love that as far as an offensive line goes. I think there's a lot of potential there. So, really, really love that pickup. Let's see here. Cade Meyer is, potential starter at center. I would hope he's probably more of a second line guy, but we'll see. Let's see here. Caden Moss coming in from Sioux Falls, big tackle body, 2 years. He might be in the running to be in the rotation, but my guess is he's a 2 deep guy. And let's see, Evan Boyd. So Evan Boyd, the receiver from Michigan State, coming in. He had just 3 catches for 54 yards last year. He's got 2 years of eligibility. 6'3", so bigger body. I think this is a nice pairing alongside. I think his skill set, his size, is a nice pairing alongside Amari Hayes and a few of these other guys, and maybe Dominic Overby and a few of these guys. So I like the size contrast here that previous staffs have taken advantage of that size. As far as where he fits in the rotation, that I am not 100% sure. The only guy, right now, the only guy that I'm looking at receiver that I say, and that guy's a starter, 100%, no doubt in my mind, that guy's starting, is Amari Hayes. And that's not to say that the other guys aren't good enough to do so, but Amari Hayes is one that I look at as right there. That's your wide receiver one. That's your extra. That's your, that's the receiver that you always have on the field because you need him on the field, type of thing. They grabbed another quarterback, Zane Flores. This is another one I got a lot of conversation online about. Oklahoma, he just wasn't very good for Oklahoma State last year, but I am choosing to I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that Oklahoma State's offense was a dumpster fire. It was horrible last season. The whole team was bad, but at least the defense started to pick it up as the year went on. But their offense was a mess from game one all the way to the end. The offensive line was terrible. The running backs were bad. The wide receivers were bad. Zane Flores had no help around him, and that's not to say he wasn't he didn't have plenty of his own bad plays. But I'm not willing to I'm willing to take a flyer on him. You don't need him for at least a couple years. He's got 3 years of eligibility. You don't need him this year, and you can decide you don't need him this year, and you can decide until next year if you think that he has a shot of competing with Connor Moberly or even Hudson Curlin. And if he can't, he'll transfer out, and that's fine. But he's depth right now, and you don't need him. You don't need to plan on him starting necessarily at any point in time. So this is a great flyer to take. I'm a big fan of this as just here's your QB3 right now, and just see what he can develop into. Running back Salahuddin Allah, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. He was kind of okay for a kind of a bad Oregon State team. I don't know if he's probably not going to be in the first couple running backs. We'll see. This feels like a depth piece to me. And I'm not trying to be overly critical of him, but just from what we've seen, 74 attempts for 329 is less than 5 yards a carry, and that's over 2 seasons. So not a particularly productive player, but that could be another guy kind of like Zane Flores, where he just isn't in a great system and a great fit for him necessarily. So after they went and got Tyler Fortenberry, they did go and grab a couple tight ends in Christian Greenlaw and Jordan Viborni. Christian Greenlaw's coming out of Hampton. So it's an FCS program, FCS or D2. I think they're FCS. Uh, they took our they took our Elite Eight. They took our Final Four run. We take their tight end. Uh, 6'5" tight end, 14 catches for 122 yards and a touchdown last season. We'll see how he figures into the rotation. My guess is like your top two guys could be. I mean, I would guess Ross Kopp is one of the top two. Viborny, I think, is really interesting. 6'5", 240-pound guy. He's transferring from Oklahoma State. He's got all 4 years of eligibility. He redshirted last year with Oklahoma State. Had a really, really nice offer list coming out of high school. Was a respected recruit. Had lots of Power 5 offers. I would guess Jordan Viborny probably fits in somewhere in the main rotation at tight end, along with whatever you find, whatever you think Keaton Roscoff gives you and all that. And then Christian Greenlaw, I think, fits in somewhere behind that, I would say. The really interesting name that I want to talk, he's been kind of the talk of the town for the last week or so. But I want to just show off a little bit. Is Cameron Petaway. And this is a guy that I think is going to he's going to deserve, he deserves you to see some of his highlights. The kid can fly. He has crazy speed. For some reason that's not loading, but it's last year, MAC freshman of the year, ran for 365 yards. He led the nation in kick return average at 33 and I think like 33 and a half, something like that. He can move. He is very, very fast. Let's see if I can find Petaway, not Petway. I was hoping I could find, I mean, just there, see if I can, hoping I could find a kick return of him, but I'll see if I can find that off to the side. But anyway, kid can move. He's immediately a contender for, like, I'm not saying he's going to replace Aiden Flora, but he is every bit as good on return as Aiden Flora is, if not better. So, like, on kick return now, you can just stick Flora and Petaway back there, and you're taken care of. Like, you don't need anything else, basically. And he immediately factors in potentially to this running game. You can put him all over the field. He can catch the ball. Really, really nice utility piece that can fit in a lot of places in this offense and fits that mold of team speed. Basically, is finding guys that can be home run threats, that can outrun guys, that can get around the edge and do all that stuff that you need him to do. I'm really excited for him. I know if you guys remember a few years ago, there was a kid, there was a couple different kids, in the Iowa State program, specifically a receiver who now I'm completely blanking on what the hell his name was, but it was receiver Coron Adams. I couldn't believe how fast he was on like his high school tape, and I was convinced this kid was gonna be like better than Jalen Knoll, was gonna be just a menace, like just a menace all over the play, on the field, just getting the ball and just see what happens type of thing. Here we go. I found his kick return. They pulled up here. It's kind of unreal how fast this kid is. Let me pull this up. So this was their first play of the season. Just goes. I mean, he's gone. He's pulling away. I mean, that's speed. That's big time speed that Iowa State can use in a lot of different places in the field. It's fantastic. Love that pickup. I think he's going to be awesome. So let's move on now to the defensive players that Iowa State has gotten commits from. And I like I said, I specifically want to highlight a few of these because there's a few of them that I'm really, really excited about. It should be worth noting this year, or this past week, we did get a commitment from David Coffey to return, which I think is awesome. I mean, if you look at all the guys that have returned, a lot of it's on defense, on the defensive line. Jace Gilbert, Zamir Hawk, Trey Verdon. But you've got Ben Ngoye coming back. You've got Drew Surges, Cade Matson, David Coffey. You've got all these guys coming back. And I'm so happy that they were able to keep these young guys in, because there's a lot of potential there. Keeping Austin Barrett in the program is awesome too. Austin Barrett could easily slide into center, and maybe he's your starting center next year. So, Rylan Barnes, Jack Limbaugh, you keep all those guys too. It's awesome. Okay, first up, Tristan Exline. He was the first defensive commit of the class. I watched this kid and I immediately fell in love with it. Oh, before we look at this tape, I want to give a special shout out to Joe Summers. If you guys have not seen this on Twitter, he put together it's a grade and incoming transfers using an algorithm. You had a combo of PFF grade, stats, snaps played, level competition, all that kind of stuff, and basically kind of applied his own grading system to Iowa State's transfers. If you guys have not had a chance to see this, this is really cool. We've got, I'll just retweet it from there. I think Jackson Pence also retweeted it. This is really cool. How objective it is, who knows, but at least it's like, it's a fair measure, I think, of the quality of the transfer you brought in, as far as like, how good is the attempt of filling a position with this player. And I think he did a really nice job here. But if you look at the defense here, there's a couple of these guys here that are clearly development pieces: Brody Miller, Trillian Sorrell, Duron Goodman, a couple of the other guy, Donovan Fitzmaurice, stuff like that. But like, look at this talent that they assembled up here. Isaac Terrell, Caden Crawford, Montrez Smith. We're going to talk about a few of these guys here, actually a lot of these guys. But even like, Sullivan Schlimgen is down here. He's like the 12th best transfer here. But, Sullivan Schlimgen is was probably the best linebacker at Washington State last year, and they had a very good linebacking core. And, I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's probably a plug and play starter at Iowa State at linebacker, or he's just he's at minimum a plug and play rotation guy with, X-Line and Montrez Smith. So, lots of talent they brought in here. So, the first guy I wanted to bring up, though, is Tristan X-Line, who grades out here, as an 83, one of the better transfers in the class. I remember I was watching some of Tristan X-Line. This is his tape from last season, and I'm very impressed with kind of what he does with the speed he plays with. You can watch him just kind of covering stuff across the field. He's quick, man. He does a good job chasing stuff down. That's really great coverage there. The thing was also too is with linebackers, especially linebackers, you love like production. You want to see production, and at UT Permian Basin, excuse me. Last year, 143 tackles, 19 and a half tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and that pick that you just saw. That is an unbelievably productive linebacker. Like, I know we got, like, at least I kind of got a little bit hyped up about Colby Reeder coming out of Delaware when we got him, and he turned out to be kind of nothing because he was just too slow. But Colby Reeder never had production at Delaware like this. This is an unbelievably productive linebacker. This stat line right here tells you that he is where he needs to be at when he needs to be there. That is the sign of a good linebacker, especially in a 4-2-5 where they need to be mobile, they need to be quick, they need to be really smart. When you can have a linebacker that averages like 12 tackles a game, that is unbelievably productive. And will he put up 143 tackles next year at Iowa State? Probably not. That's a lot of tackles. But this is an awesome piece. Like, he's only got a year left, which is a bummer, but like, man, this kid can play. Like, and to me, I'm of the opinion that if he can put together a really good season this year, he's going to start, like, he'll have a chance to play himself into like draft pick type status. The kid can play, and that stat line is all you need to know that he's where he needs to be when he needs to be there. So I love Tristan X-Line. I hope he gets a lot of just tons and tons of playing time next year, and I think he will. Montrez Smith Jr. So I couldn't find a lot of tape on him because he was at Austin P, and for whatever reason, apparently they just decided they don't care about documenting things, I guess. Different guy. No, different guy. So I couldn't find a lot of tape on Montrez Smith. But redshirt freshman at Austin P, 74 tackles, 8.5 TFLs, 4 sacks, 3 interceptions. Another really productive linebacker. Took his red shirt at Duke. I would guess he's probably going to be factoring in, if he's not starting, on day one, he's probably in the immediate rotation. So yeah, X-Line had tons and tons of Big 12 offers: Baylor, Houston, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Like getting X-Line was a legit recruiting win for Iowa State. That wasn't just like, oh, they found this kid at D2 and he's just like, oh, nobody knows about him. No, kid was a legit Power 5 transfer prospect. Everyone wanted him. We got him. Um, yeah, we can find some high school film. We can take a look at that sometime. I I don't know, that it's tough. You can at least kind of check out some stuff, but he's 2 years on now. He's a different player than he was at the time. Um, okay, next up, Keon Washington, cornerback from Bowling Green, had 37 tackles, 2 TFLs, a sack, and 3 pass breakups last year. Um, 3 years of eligibility remaining. This is probably a depth piece right now, a depth slash development piece right now. I don't think he's in your starting lineup next year necessarily, but he could work his way into the 2 deep, I think. But the important thing to remember here too is that, like, in the end, every spot on the team is up for grabs. There are basically 0 penciled in starters. Maybe the closest thing is Jalen Rayner at quarterback, but even he will still have to beat out Connor Moberly in spring ball and camp. Well, I guess unless they have some sort of agreement. But um, Keon Washington, I think, developmental guy that hope you keep him around for a couple years and you see how he develops from there. I think the same deal goes for Willie Breland, coming out of Mississippi Gulf Coast College. Had a decent year last year. Was going to Washington State, is now coming to Iowa State. We'll see how he fits in here. Again, just a number of corners in here that I don't know that you have any corners. Maybe the only corner on the roster you're looking at, we'll talk about him in here in a little bit, that you're looking at as like he's probably a starter, is Seth Johnson from Montana State. But we'll talk about him here in a little bit. But Willie Breland, I think, will factor in someplace into that 2 to 3 deep, but we'll see from there. Trillian Sorrell was the first Washington State transfer, came in he kept his red shirt last year, so basically hasn't played much at all. Pretty much strictly developmental prospect at this point. We'll see how much they like him. So we don't really know what he's going to be yet, just because he just hasn't played hardly at all at this level. So Demarius Russell, Washington State transfer at safety, played last year as a true freshman. And this is another guy, developmental kid. Hopefully he can be here for a few years. We'll see how he figures into the rotation, especially when you're bringing back a couple guys, bringing back Drew Surgis and a few of those other guys as well. We'll see how they factor into the rotation, but this could be just I don't think he didn't take a red shirt last year, so maybe this is the year to take a red shirt, and then you can be right. You can keep him around for an extra year. We'll see. Anything on the new lineman, Jared Ramos? I do not yet. I haven't had a chance to look at his at all. I think he just committed like in the last couple hours, so I haven't had a chance to look at any of his stuff just yet. Donovan Fitzmaurice, also another defensive tackle from Washington State. He's coming in 3 years of eligibility. Going to figure into the role. More of a developmental prospect right now, I think, especially because I think they've found their top line guys on the defensive line, especially if you're going to include the Iowa State guys. The existing Iowa State guys, they're all Iowa State guys now. Let me take a drink. We'll see. He's going to be in the mix someplace, but I think this is the guy you're looking for to really start making an impact in 27 and 28. So I think same goes with Deron Goodman. Could get buried a little bit in that safety group because I think they've got some really, really high end guys now. But again, looking for him. But he's only got 1 year of eligibility, which is a little bit tough. Hopefully, I just think he's still a depth piece right now. But we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. Max Balloon came in. He's I believe he's a 7th year senior, has played 1 million games. I would guess he'll figure into the rotation. Is he a starter at defensive tackle? I don't know for sure, but he is definitely going to figure into the rotation. He's just played a lot of snaps, veteran presence that you absolutely want there in that system, that he knows, that 4-2-5 system that Jimmy Rogers wants to run. Sullivan Schlimgen I think was he was one of the first big recruiting wins as far as like Washington State kids go, where you know, there was a few other like Anthony Polana was a guy that I think a lot of us originally zeroed in on as like we want this kid, but he ended up going to Boston College because it sounded like the coaching staff actually preferred Sullivan Schlimgen if they were going to take one of them. It was really productive last season as a true 50 tackles as a true 49 tackles as a true freshman is a good number. He's familiar with the system. You can bring him in. Is he a starter right away? We'll see. I mean, in a 4-2-5, you're only starting 2 linebackers, but he'll absolutely be in the rotation someplace. Is there anyone still at Wazoo to keep an eye on for transferring here? That's a great question. I feel like most of that list is checked off already. Let me just check out. Those are all the departures. I was gonna see because he's been tracked because Jackson Pence has done a really, really good job tracking targets and offers, but the only target he's got left on here is Carter Moses. So we could be nearing the end, if not at the end of the Washington State transfers, but they've got a lot of them, and a lot of them are very, very good. But Sullivan Schlimgen, I think, will absolutely figure into the linebacker rotation next season for sure. Now, let's talk about Braden Owls. Braden Owls, I believe, in my opinion, Braden Owls is the single best player that they've gotten out of the portal. Toledo safety last year, he has 9 interceptions in the last season, 5 this past season. One of the best defensive players in the group of 5, coming over with his position coach Ross Watson. He's going to have tons and tons of opportunities. Look at this. Look at his stat line here. I mean, you're looking 4 picks last year, 5 this year. He's got 76 tackles over last year, which as a safety in a system that wasn't designed for him to get a million tackles like Iowa State's 3-3 stack was. That's a good number. You really like what you see here. His tape looks great. He is a true ball hawk that will create turnovers for Iowa State at some point this season. I would be almost surprised if he picks off less than three passes this year. I would be pretty surprised. My over under for Braden Owls for interceptions this year would be 3.5. I think. Maybe you put it at 2.5, but 2.5 or 3.5 is where I would put Braden Owls for interceptions this year. I think he's awesome. Probably the best player. I think, in my opinion, probably the best player. Maybe the best player that they've gotten out of the portal outside. Maybe the only other contender here would be Bobby Terrell, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Brody Miller, young kid, redshirted last year. Again, developmental piece in that defensive backfield. We'll just have to kind of see. You'll probably hear his name pop up in camp as a guy that's that they're looking at, whatever it is. I don't anticipate getting a ton of snaps out of him next year unless he really pops up. So we'll see. Kind of a little bit of an unknown, but we'll see what we get out of him. Caden Crawford, coming from South Dakota. If you look here, Joe Summers, in his little metric here, has him as the second best transfer pulling in out of South Dakota. 78 tackles, 10.5 TFLs, and 5.5 sacks last season for South Dakota. And but he was at Iowa for a while. So love that. Here's a quick clip of him. It's coming off the edge here. Good power there. I mean, just drove that lineman right back into him, stuck with it. I love that kind of motor on a defensive lineman there. Does a good job filtering on there on the run stop. I think this is awesome. This is a guy you can plug and play day one pretty much and just let him go to work. Woof. Yeah. I'm a big fan of this Caden Crawford here. Like I said, I think he's pretty much plug and play, drop him in, you're in good shape. Let's see here. Bryson Lamb, defensive lineman from Washington State. Decently productive last year, 25 game. Started his last 12 games, 3.5 tackles for loss and a sack and a half. He's got 1 year left, so obviously he's coming to play. Will he be in that starting rotation? I don't think so, but he absolutely can be in the 2 or 3 deep there and be a nice depth piece there. Malachi Tease coming in from Washington State, 17 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and a forced fumble last season, coming in with 2 years of eligibility. I absolutely think he will be in the rotation at defensive end. Uh, we'll have to see if he's a starter, but he absolutely will be. You'll see him on the field. At minimum, you'll see him like kind of how you saw like Tomatella McDonough last year when he was healthy, just coming in as a nice rotation piece, maybe a third down blitzer type of thing. I like Malachi Tease a lot. Jack Janikowski, defensive lineman coming in from Washington State. 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss and a sack last year. I think another depth piece here. He's got 2 years left, so this is probably a guy that I think you're going to really try to see him stand out next season once he's had a chance in the system. He's had a game in a year in the system, I should say, and has a chance to make his way up the depth chart because I think there's a lot of talent in front of him. Outside of Braden Owls, I would argue the gem of the class is getting Bobby Terrell. He's an awesome player. Last year, 7 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, and just went in on 28 tackles in general. I want to show you some of his clips from last year. This Sekra guy, I'm not sure who he is, but he put the videotape together. I don't know about this first round pick thing here, but I mean, you can watch him coming off the edge there. He's aggressive. He's quick. Gets right around him. I mean, San Diego State's not like an amazing team. You just watch him going around and just an aggressive pursuer. He's a big time player. I mean, that's determination. That's motor right there. Let's watch him. He's sitting there right on the right defensive end there. Keeps working, keeps working, keeps working. Keeps going. Love that. Want to find him before the play here. I think he should be. Yeah, he's the left defensive end here. So he's going to start right here. He's this guy. You can see him filter through, step back, go. Beautiful wrap up tackle. Keeps fighting, keeps fighting, keeps fighting. Gets him. Yep, right there. Back up just a touch. You can see right here on the left defensive end. Just shucks his guy there, gets right into the backfield. Beautiful. This guy is an awesome player that's going to really firm up that defensive line. Give obviously a legit pass rush from the defensive end spot. If it's not Braden Owls, this is probably the best player that you've gotten out of the class. He had lots and lots of offers from other places. Big time player. Next up is Blake Hawkins, another guy I think has a good chance of factoring into the line, maybe even as a starter, but definitely as a rotation player at minimum. 6'4", 240-pound edge rusher, 13 sacks, 23.5 tackles for loss as a redshirt freshman last year. For a defensive end, that is remarkably productive. So let's take a look at Blake Hawkins. Look at that shit. Okay, hold on. Grant, I understand this is JUCO, but let's look at this. Right defensive end there. Just blast through that right tackle. Holy shit. Look at the bend. Look at the bend. Watch that. Watch the bend he's got. I mean, that's like textbook shit right there. So he's getting a good step to the outside, good hand fighting, got his arm underneath to get that arm out of the way. And right there, look at that bend. Granted, that might have hurt just a touch, but I wish I could back this up like frame by frame. But like right there, I mean, that's bend. You need that kind of bend from a defensive end. Gets there, bats the pass away. Love that. Get the right defensive end again there. Just told that left tackle to get shit on. This is great. I love this. Um, if your two defensive ends are Blake Hawkins and Bobby Terrell next year, you got to be excited about your pass rush from the defensive ends. Who does he remind you from the past? I know you're baiting me into saying Will McDonald, but Will McDonald was an alien. And while I think this kid is very good, Will McDonald was some speed, some combination of speed and power that I just didn't know was entirely possible at his frame. But what I'm going to say, I mean, look at that though. That's a good move. He's chasing him down, and keep in mind, Iowa Western's a good program. That's like they put out good players. Good job sliding inside, just bowling people over. God, the kid's good. Look at that. Right there. Not fooled at all. Get shit on. Man, I love this kid. This is the first time I've gotten to really chunk through some of his plays, but some of his tape. But God, I like this kid. Just does a nice job filtering through. Right. Just watch him dump this right tackle. Later, dude. Oh my God. Look at that beef. I mean, again, I understand this is JUCO and he's going to like the left tackles he's going to play against in the Big 12 are going to be better than this. But I mean, this isn't just like getting around him with a swimmer or something. This is like in his face and just drive him straight back. God, that's impressive. I mean, he's a little bit on the small side, but man, he plays big. And I love that. He plays strong. He plays fast. Right there. Nice play. And again, these are highlights. So like you don't see the times where he over pursued or something like that. But that stuff can be coached. But what is hard to coach is effort and intensity and drive and a motor. And the kid plays with one. I'm really impressed by this film so far. I totally understand why they were really, and I understand why this kid had lots of opportunities coming out of Iowa Western as well. Kid's good. Right through him. Gosh, that's nice. Anyways, don't mean to drag on too long here, but God, I'm having a lot of fun watching tape of Blake Hawkins. Drive right through. Man, if this kid doesn't start on the defensive line next year, I'm going to be wondering what the hell happened. Double team. Nope. Chucked him right off. This is great. I love this kid. This is my new favorite player on the defense, man. Tristan Exline and Blake Hawkins feed families. Gosh, I love that player. Okay, so like Mike Parsons, a little bit. Again, another alien that is almost incomparable to other like, normal human beings, but not bad. But play style wise, I think you're not that far off. Next up, Seth Johnson from Montana State. Worth talking about here, especially Montana State is a very good, very good FCS program. They just won the national title. Seth Johnson was probably their best corner. 20 tackles, forced fumble, four pass breakups last year. One of their best corners. Big fan here. I would think he'd be in the mix to start. Certainly in the rotation, in the mix, depending on like how Benny Nagoye and them come along a little bit too. So I like this pickup. I think this is, he's got 3 years of eligibility. So like, even if he doesn't start this year, he's got time to develop a little bit too. So not too, just a good pickup both now and going forward too. Cause I think he can probably play now, but doesn't necessarily need to. So overall, that's what I would say it's got at as far as defensive transfers right now so far coming in. I don't know what they've got all left. Maybe you probably still see a couple more leak in, but you know, overall, gosh, I'm really impressed with a lot of these names. There's a lot of these names that they are bringing in that will have a chance to start and be effective right away. Uh, I mean, like Bobby Terrell and I forgot Ramos. Who did I forget? Oh, Jared Ramos. Yeah. Oh, yes. Um, Here, this will be an opportunity for all of us. Um, and we can check out Jared Ramos. Let's see. I think he's a younger kid. Maybe I can find some huddle tape for him. Oh, just kidding. He's not. He's an older kid. So, hmm. So, anyways, Jared Ramos committed today from Montana. Haven't gotten a chance to watch him much yet, but we'll hopefully we can dig into him a little bit next week. And hopefully find a little bit of tape. But a nice player that committed today should figure somewhere into that two deep. Like I said, I think you've got your starting. I think you've got your starting five probably on the offensive line. If you move Austin Barrett into center, then you've got Taylor and Masai King, and then DeAndre Carter, and then the Michigan State kid who Brocious, Gavin Brocious at your guards, and then Austin Barrett at center. So, either way though, he's an older guy, so he doesn't have I think he's probably only got 1 year left. He's got highlights on his Twitter profile. Let's see if we can find let's see if we can't find us some Jared Ramos. Ah, excellent. Okay. Let's pull up some Jared Ramos. Oh, sorry. For some reason, I realized I was just talking about the offensive line. For some reason I thought he was offensive line. This is apparently you can tell that I've not had a chance at all to look at Jared Ramos because I thought he was an offensive line for a second. Defensive line from Montana. That's my mistake. Um, okay. Nice job shaking off the block there. I want to go look at that again. He's right there. That left defensive tackle just goes right through. It just gets to him. This might be a huddle tape here. Let's right around the edge. Oh, so okay, so he must have played DN in high school. So, which does tell you though, he can move around the defensive line a little bit. Um, Good speed, gets right around that left tackle is awful. What we got here? Just busts right through. I mean, I'm a li- I okay. I think it seems like he's got some baseline skills here that I'm interested in. The last two here are just against absolute garbage offensive line play, but that's not his fault. Just goes right through there, does a nice job shucking off a couple blockers, just eats that running back. I mean, I'll be curious to see how this one. Yeah, he doesn't have a long time to play yet, so I would think. I think he's got a chance to be in the rotation there for sure. Is he one of the starters at defensive tackle or defensive end? I don't know, but um, overall, yeah, overall though, I like what I see. Interesting. I'll have to dig into him a little bit more. Um, just out of curiosity, I'm going to see if they have. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. Nope. No stats at all. All right, cool. uh, I'll have to get on Jackson for getting to update this tracker to include Jared Ramos. Um, so overall though, so those are your defensive transfer. I think they've done a nice job so far. They've clearly put put an emphasis on building from the inside out, defensive line, offensive line outwards, which I think is the right call. I think if you fall for the trap for overpaying for skill position guys, running backs, receivers, quarterbacks, corners, whatever else right away, I think you can fall into a trap where you end up paying a lot more for those guys that aren't necessarily a massive step up from the cheaper guys. But if you can build up from the inside out, get a good offensive line, get a good defensive line put together, it makes all those other guys look better. A good player can quickly look average behind a bad offensive line, but an average player can look very good behind a good offensive line. So I like the approach here. I don't think they're going to fall for that trap. I think they've avoided a lot of the pitfalls so far of the bad transfer stories like we saw with like Florida State and Colorado, where they just can't keep anything going. There's no identity there. They're not building anything. They're just continuing to apply duct tape after duct tape after duct tape. So, you know, overall can't have like really nothing to complain about so much for this transfer portal class, especially just kind of given the situation. I think they've done about as good as they can do. We'll see what else they bring in, but we are nearing the end now of we're nearing the end now of transfer portals for the transfer portal for Iowa State. They've got a lot of their roster filled out. I mean, I'm sure there will be guys in the spring that tag along and join the roster. But for right now, you've probably got 90% of your guys. So, we're going to keep an eye on this, and hopefully there'll be a spring game that we can take a look at these guys. And I think it would make a lot of sense for Jimmy Rogers to have a spring game so they can show off his team a little bit. I can see the argument that like, oh, maybe you're not ready yet, so you don't want to show everybody what's going on, but go out there, let Jalen Rayner rip a couple deep ones down there to Dom Overby and to Omari Hayes and a few of these other guys and Cody Jackson, and let him rip a couple deep ones. Let Aiden Flory get a couple carries and take one to the house. Some of that, let Braden Alls get a pick. Show the crowd that there's some good players here that's worth coming back in the fall for. And I would hope that Iowa State fans like, oh, Matt Campbell's gone, I'm going to cancel my season tickets. I hope nobody did that. That would be lame as shit, and that would be very un-Iowa State fan of them. But anyways, I think we're going to get wrapped up here because we got about 10 minutes until tip off down in Lawrence for Iowa State to take on Kansas down there. So I'm going to hop off here. We'll gives everyone a chance to go to the bathroom, get a beer, get back down in time for tip. So thank you for everybody for listening to this episode of Iowa State Cyclones live here on the Voice of College Football Network. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Go Cyclones tonight. If you are interested in that, we are going to do how will the post game go. Yeah. So if you guys are not familiar with it, I'm sure pretty much all of you are, with the CF After Dark stuff. So after basketball games, we have our post game. So after Chris Williams and Jake Brennan do their thing, we have our own longer post game show after that, which is just kind of, the fans sitting around talking about the game type of thing. And it's been a lot of fun so far. And we've got Brent Bloom coming on tonight to join the crew as well. So we'll see how long it goes. Maybe it'll be 45 minutes. Maybe it'll go an hour and a half. Who knows? It's late. It'll start late, so we probably won't go super long, but we're here. Iowa State's got a top 5 undefeated basketball team right now. We're going to talk about them as long as we want. So we'll see you guys all here. So tip off here in about 10 minutes, and then hopefully we'll see you guys all over on CF After Dark on the Cyclone Fanatic page and all that for our After Dark post game show after the game ends. So we'll see you guys all again next Tuesday, same time, same place, here on the Iowa State Cyclones Live with the Voice of College Football Network. We'll see you guys then. Later.